Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving deep into the mind of John Rawls, one of the most influential political philosophers of the last century. Seriously, his work gives us this incredible blueprint for a just society, and it forces us to rethink everything we thought we knew about our laws, our constitution, and what it means to be fair. So let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off with the big one, the question that's really at the heart of pretty much every single political debate you can think of. What's the secret sauce? Is a law fair just because it makes a lot of people happy, or because it's what we've always done? This is the kind of question that fuels arguments about taxes, healthcare, you name it. And John Rawls gave us this amazing tool, a thought experiment, to help us put through all that noise and find a real answer. Now, Rawls argued that to find principles that are actually fair, we can't start from where we are right now. Let's be honest, we're all a little bit biased by our own lives and our own self-interest, right? So he asks us to imagine something completely different. He says, imagine you're a founder of a brand new society. You and a bunch of other people are in what he calls the original position. Think of it like a big constitutional convention where you get to decide all the basic rules, the economy, the government, the whole shebang. But, and this is the genius part, there's a catch. You have to make all these huge decisions from behind what he famously called a veil of ignorance. It's this conceptual curtain that completely blocks out any knowledge of who you're going to be in this new society you're building. So poof, you have no idea what your race or gender will be. You don't know if you're going to be born into a wealthy family or be struggling to get by. You have no clue if you'll be a brilliant scientist or if you'll face some serious physical challenges. And you don't even know what you'll believe in, what your religion will be, what your personal goals are. All those things that are basically just random luck of the draw, they're completely hidden from you. See what this does? This ignorance forces you to be totally impartial. It's like this. If you have to cut a cake for a party, but you don't know which piece you're going to get, how are you going to cut it? You're going to cut it as evenly as humanly possible, right? You'd want to make sure that even the worst case scenario, getting the smallest slice, is still pretty good. That's the logic. So, if you're a rational person behind this veil, what kind of society would you actually design? Well, Rawls argues that everyone would logically agree on two fundamental principles of justice. And the order here is absolutely everything. Rawls calls it lexical priority, which is just a fancy way of saying they're ranked. You have to nail down the first principle completely before you can even think about moving on to the second. Liberty always comes first. Okay, so principle number one. Everyone gets the exact same set of basic liberties. We're talking freedom of speech, the right to vote, freedom of thought, the essentials. And these are sacred. They're totally non-negotiable. You can't sacrifice someone's basic rights just to boost the economy or to make a majority of people a little happier. Now, the second principle is all about how we handle social and economic inequalities. And it's got two parts. First, every job, every position of power has to be open to everyone under conditions of fair equality of opportunity. And this isn't just about having no keep-out signs. It means that a kid with talent and drive from a poor neighborhood has to have a genuinely equal chance to succeed as a kid from a wealthy one. And then we get to his most famous and maybe most controversial idea, the difference principle. This says that inequalities in wealth and income are only okay, only justified, if they are set up to provide the greatest possible benefit to the least advantaged person in society. So this all might sound very philosophical, right? But Rawls wasn't just playing an abstract game. These principles give us a really concrete framework for how to actually design our laws and our public policies. This is where the rubber meets the road. So on a constitutional level, that first principle is king. It means we have to lock in those basic rights so they can't just be voted away. But, and this is a really critical point, it also demands what Rawls called the fair value of political liberties. It's not enough for everyone to just have a vote. We need policies like campaign finance reform to make sure that huge piles of money can't just buy elections and drown out the voices of regular citizens. And when we talk about day-to-day laws and policies, that's where the second principle really shines. To make fair equality of opportunity a reality, a society would need things like high-quality public education and accessible healthcare for everyone. And the difference principle? Well, that gives a powerful moral reason for things like a progressive tax system and a strong social safety net. For Rawls, this isn't about charity. It's about fairness. It's about what we owe each other as free and equal members of society. Now, as you can imagine, not everyone was on board with this. The brilliant libertarian philosopher Robert Nozick came back with a really powerful critique. He famously argued that taxing someone's earnings to give to someone else is basically a form of forced labor. It violates your right to own yourself and what you produce. This is probably the biggest, sharpest pushback to Rawls's economic ideas. But Rawls had a really interesting and surprising answer to all this. He actually rejected what we think of as a typical welfare state. He said that system just lets massive inequality build up and then tries to slap a Band-Aid on it later with welfare checks. He wanted something totally different, what he called a property-owning democracy. The whole point here isn't just to move money around after the fact. It's to make sure that ownership of capital and wealth is spread out as widely as possible from the get-go, using things like inheritance taxes or policies that encourage worker co-ops. The goal is to foster a society of independent, self-respecting citizens, not a society of givers and takers. Okay, so if we take this whole framework seriously, how should we actually talk to each other about politics and law in a democracy? Rawls had one last really crucial piece of the puzzle. He called it public reason. It's basically a set of ground rules for political debate. The idea is simple. When we're arguing about fundamental laws that are going to bind everyone, we have to use reasons and values that all of our fellow citizens could reasonably be expected to share and endorse, no matter what their private, religious, or philosophical beliefs are. This isn't a law you can enforce in court. Rawls saw it as a moral duty, the duty of civility. It all boils down to mutual respect. It means you owe it to your fellow citizens to make your case in terms they can understand and engage with, so that our laws feel like a cooperative project, not just one group forcing its will on another. And all of this leaves us with a really powerful and maybe uncomfortable question to ask ourselves. When you look around at our laws, our economy, our political debates, do they really look like a fair system of cooperation designed for everyone's mutual benefit? Or do they look more like a system designed by people who already knew exactly which slice of the cake they were going to get?